You don't want your E?
Okay, how not to fuck it up.
We're all adults here.
We are. I love that E. We've only had a couple of E's, but turns out you all like them. So we'll just keep rolling with it.
I love it. All right, so winter training is here, and as coaches, we often see mistakes. I love this. I love these types of episodes where we reached out to our edge coaches to ask them, what are you seeing, and what are your tips for not messing up in the winter?
We're going to do this in 2 chunks. Our first is going to be our coaches sharing, kind of by theme, what we see athletes doing wrong in our fall and winter seasons, which chances are you're doing some of them wrong already. Maybe me as well. And then the second half is going to be tips on how to really rail and win our fall winter training. So all of that adding up to how not to fuck it up.
All right, well, let's kick it off. First up, Coach Katie said habits. So a lot of athletes are getting out of their good habits that they spent all year creating, including habits around sleep, strength, hydration, good nutrition, and so on. It's either some variation of that or completely falling off the wagon.
Yep.
They're like, nope, it's off season, I'm done, and they totally pull back from training. The truth is it's a lot easier for people who are training for races next spring or summer to keep a decent base in the wintertime. This is really your foundation. So those folks who fall off, who really take it as a full off season, have a much harder time coming back.
Yeah, this is all about how to create habit stacking. You all know that I love James Clear's Atomic Habits. I'm literally looking at the glowing copy that we have on our edge wall in our library. I love it, love it, love it. But it doesn't mean these have to be huge, giant things that we do. It just has to mean that something gets done, and it's how do you pair it together. So read it, love it, and you don't have to keep every single habit exactly the same way, but you do need to keep some good habits. Also on the subject of habits, Coach Dearman had a great one of don't mess up in the fall, winter, drifting back to old bad habits, right? Mm-hmm. And in the past, things have gotten, obviously we're losing our daylight, right? It gets dark at 4:00. It's true. It's true. And so people just kind of shut down and check out. And, they kind of get back to my being good is only when there's daylight, and when it's dark out, I can be naughty and do whatever I want and never sleep. But try not to do that, right? Mm-hmm. Just in general, think about holistically how you had good habits before and not drifting back into the old ones that, go with this really short, terrible circadian rhythm right now. It's true.
Yeah, very true. All right, next up is Coach Shauna, who's talking about hydration. People don't drink enough in the winter months.
No, right? They just forget because they're not hot.
And you're not sweating where you're visibly seeing wet clothes in that sort of way usually.
Yeah.
And so it becomes really challenging to stay up on your hydration. That is a very, very common ailment that we see with our athletes. And if you've been struggling at all with hydration in the summer months, you really have to double down on keeping it up in the winter months.
Third one is Coach Dan's going to kick it off about consistency and scaling versus skipping. So he says, and I'm just going to quote him because it was so well put, I feel athletes have a difficult time staying consistent and disciplined, particularly at the end of the year around the holidays. Mm-hmm. Totally true. We all feel it coming. It's just easier to get complacent. So he thinks it's important to scale back during the holiday weeks to keep training manageable rather than scrapping an entire week of workouts, right? Yeah. So instead of doing a 90-minute, effort on a Wednesday, which you used to do, maybe you do 40 minutes, and that is great, right? And that is consistency over perfection, because we all know perfection is not going to happen. Yeah. So make it smaller, so it's scalable, and it actually gets done.
I love this one because it really takes the pressure off of folks from thinking that they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, right? But if what you are supposed to be doing is manageable as opposed to out of reach or just unreasonable for that particular week, you can check that box green and still keep that momentum. Yeah. And so much of the off season is about keeping momentum. So that's a brilliant one.
Mine kind of went with his, although less well put, just, finding ways that you can be consistent, but doing things in a different way. So I think a lot of times athletes, especially if they're feeling like a little bit of burnout, they don't want to feel pressure around, let's say, road running. They just got off of marathon season. They just avoid it altogether. And I'm like, no. There are different ways to do this. We can do a fun run on the 606 when we did a scavenger hunt around Halloween. They loved it. They were like, I didn't even realize I was running, and they were worried about feeling burned out. Or trail running. Again, we're right now in our trail and track season, which every other week we've got a trail focus, and people, you just see them light up because they're experiencing their sport in a completely different way. So don't be afraid to find a new way to do it so that you are, developing a level of consistency, and that is a different way of scaling.
I feel this so much. I have been, as we talked about, dreading speed work and my anxiety around speed work, and trying to get back into more consistent running. And I jumped on a treadmill and did a treadmill workout from an app that tells you the speeds and inclines, and
Cool.
And I didn't know what it was going to be, and I just kind of jumped into it, and it was so much fun to not have to design the workout myself.
Yeah, self-coaching is great, right?
Yeah. And just, it was a different voice, a different stories, different perspectives, and all of the, it was all set out for me, and it was something totally different than I would have ever done with my coach or by myself, and it was, it was just refreshing.
Cool. That's a cool way to think of it, is like, do it a different way and see if it feels better. Yeah, I love that.
The biggest mistake that Coach Cass sees during winter months is not warming up properly. We need to spend a little extra time in warming up if we are outside in the cold, or you're in a colder space. Or if you're getting up earlier and it's still dark outside, like getting your body and your mind moving. So Coach Cass's tip is to continue with a nice warm-up or stretch that warm-up out during the winter months.
2 hot tips on how to do this. I know we're getting tips later, but she's funny because she loves hoodies, right? That was her gear that she loved, and the coach's favorite, one piece of gear they didn't want to do without. But part of that was because it helped her warm up better. The other hack is, especially when it's really cold outside, if you have issues warming up, is to pre-warm in the hot tub and then go out, and that is a really great way to kind of just infuse blood into your lower half before you do the work. And it has really helped a lot of athletes in the winter months.
Yeah, and just a note on this. So athletes that just ran New York City Marathon had to sit on Staten Island for about 3 hours. And it was 45 degrees out. And I had an athlete, that we were debriefing, trying to figure out why did they sort of hit the wall at mile 12. Well, they spent 3 hours on Staten Island shivering and shaking with their whole body.
I had the same exact thing.
All of that energy that you lose through being cold, and and then also having to treat the first mile or two as a warm up. So there was a lot going on there for that race, and that was just a great indication of how much not warming up can really impact you.
All right, Coach Jace is up next, talking about that the off season doesn't mean off. So I love this because I can hear him say it too. He's right that athletes tend to take a break when their sport is in the off season, which I know running is year round, but we do have a slowdown right now, especially with Chicago with our book and races. And so now this means that you have time to work on your mechanics. You have time to work on the other things like agility and strength that you don't normally have time to work on. So do it. Off season doesn't mean off.
Yeah, this was also my tip, goes right along with this. Your next season starts with a really solid base. And so while your off season can be more flexible, and we can pivot to some of those 40-minute workouts instead of 90-minute workouts, or a treadmill class instead of run outside on your own, we really need to make sure that we have that foundation as the first building block of your next season. So do what you have to do to take the pressure off yourself and to reset, but you should not fall fully off the wagon.
Yep. Or stay in, what did I say in the last episode? Rumination station.
Rumination station, yeah.
No wagons, no rumination stations.
Out of the station, yep.
Coach Berkeley was up next, which is just to change it up. And it's so funny because during peak week, we're like, don't change a damn thing. Nobody go rollerblading or rock climbing, right? But now is the time to do it. Winter's a great time to take, new classes, try new recovery modalities. Do not forget the recovery. That is something that I notice people forgetting to do. Yeah. Shorter or faster workouts, or if that's one, maybe it's something like using that app. You have ways of challenging your body in different ways that we don't normally get to do when we're in season. So go for it, change it up, take that opportunity.
Yeah, and we've talked about cross-training in past episodes, and this is a great time to add some of that in because that all still adds to your base.
Yep.
Also, I'm curious if anybody from Edge listening to this would like to go roller skating with me. Let's do a social night roller skating now that it's not peak week.
Don't make eye contact with me. I'm not going.
Okay, Coach Robyn won't be there, but anybody else want to go roller skating with me, it would be a blast.
Are you good?
Yes.
Nice,
and humble too.
Speaking of change it up, not quite roller skating, but we do have the Edge Games coming up on December 14th. Is one of the reasons that we wanted to do it. It's kind of like High Rocks and Edge. It's kind of like High Rocks and the Bruce had a baby.
Yeah.
And it's 2 part strength, 1 part cardio times 2, basically. It's a set workout. There's 2 different levels, but it's giving our athletes something totally different to focus on in what would otherwise, per Coach Jace, be their off season. And we're up to almost 40 athletes registered. So I'm excited.
I'm loving it.
Yeah.
It is so fun, and it's so different than a lot of the work that it's adjacent to, but it's so different than some of the work we do in classes or that any of our runners have been doing in their training. It's just, it's something to keep you motivated. What'd you say a couple episodes ago? Every donkey needs a carrot?
Yep. This is a fun new carrot.
A fun new carrot for us to test out here. And also, we're going to get super strong. Yeah. I know, you say some really funny stuff.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. I was caffeinated.
You were very. Coach Derek says that we should focus on perfecting our individual areas instead of trying to smash everything together because now in the off season we actually have time. So what he means by this is we don't have to do our cardio into our strength. And while you like to save a shower, we're talking about something different here, right? We can perfect our running mechanics and work on our skills and drills in terms of our primary sport and also focus on strength and get super strong and build that base and also maybe do some yoga or mobility and work on some flexibility and range of motion. In the off season, when we don't have a structured training plan that is working towards that A goal, we have more flexibility. And so Coach Derek's tip is to really focus on nailing the basics in those different areas instead of thinking you've got to smash them all together because you only have 40 minutes in the day, right?
Coach Kat's up next, and the thing that she sees getting messed up, which I totally agree with, is safety. So keep it safe. So, practice good winter awareness, watch your terrain, choose your gear correctly, be careful of ice. Don't get frostbite. I feel like she might have been talking to me with that one, or you. Yep. But yeah, just keep it safe. And by doing that, it means that you're a lot more likely to be able to keep stacking your bricks. Yeah, but you can't treat it like summer. It's not the same.
It's not. And the darkness is a big factor here too. So for any athletes concerned about safety in the dark of running, this is a great time to pair up to implement some of those other things we've been talking about recently around off season, and squelching anxiety too, like getting your friends involved or going with a run group so that you have safety in numbers. I believe we did an episode about safety in the past too. I'll tag that in the notes.
And last, I think this one will be my favorite, is Coach J Rose, which is literally the mental health awareness and shift. So we know that in the fall we have seasonal mental shifts, and I know that you've been coaching longer than I have, and we see it with athletes. I especially know my athletes that I coach that struggle with it more. Seasonal affective disorder, winter blues, coupled with race blues. Oh my Lord! It can really affect your motivation though, and people get really, really down in the dumps. So building mental resilience, finding strategies like light therapy or meeting up with people, getting outside. Do you notice a theme? Get the fuck outside. Adjust your expectations, especially if winter is inclement, like don't be down on yourself about it. All of those things are necessary so that you have this mental health awareness, knowing that it's going to be a tougher time. It also means that when we work out and do things and make things go green, even in smaller quantities, again, the lift from them is even higher.
Yeah, that endorphin hit is amazing.
We should do a get the fuck outside one.
I think we're doing it. I think we will do it. Okay, so those were some of the things that our coaches have seen as problems that we encounter. We're going to shift this into some solutions. So what are some ways that we can use this information to do better in the winter? First up, Coach Katie says dress for success. So you want to dress so that you're slightly chilly at the start of your workout and know that you will warm up, particularly in running. I think it's like 20 degrees, right?
Yep.
That's like kind of the benchmark, depending on if you run hot or cold. But say it is 50 degrees outside, you should dress like it's 70.
Yep.
You will warm up. If you are a person who needs to warm up in advance, you had said, with the hot tub,
Yep.
That's an option, or doing a brief warm up inside your house before you go outside so that you're not totally...
Which is also great priming.
Yeah, great priming. And wearing layers,
yep.
right? That's another smart way so that you can continue to work outside and keep that aerobic base.
Coach Shana weighed in on this one as well about just, trying to have the anticipation of like keeping it warm. So whether that's you're putting a Mylar layer in the bottom of your shoe just so that your foot doesn't have to like try to stay as warm just naturally, or mittens over your gloves. Or I know like even people that need really extreme circumstances put latex gloves on just so they're going to be really wet, but they're going to be pretty warm at the end. Just planning for that. And I think that we need to have that dress for success mindset.
Mm-hmm. And there are websites out there, if you're unsure of how to dress, there are websites that you can type in the weather and it can give you some clues. But also, this is another good callback to our training journals. Something good for us to do, especially at the shift of the seasons, is to write down what we're wearing when we're going out for our workouts and whether we were too warm, too cold, or just right.
I am not young, and I have just now started Google lists of not only when I travel what to pack, but now I have like what to wear. So I have like what's in my trail pack in the summer and the winter, and then what's in my road pack summer winter, and then I have a coaching pack summer winter. And
I love that.
And I have go bags.
Go bags are good. You have one for each of the dogs?
No, they carry their own. I should.
I love that idea, and I also know I would never look back at those lists.
Yeah, it helps because if my go bag gets messed up, I can rebuild it quickly.
Yeah.
But it really helps. I mean, down to like when I coach the windrunners, I have extra pairs of like gloves for them in case somebody doesn't have a pair of gloves. And they're just the $1 gloves. It's not like a big deal, but it's enough to help.
Yeah.
Next up, tip from Coach Dearmid is accountability. You guys could have seen this coming from a mile away. So organizing sessions so that you attend with someone else, right? Again, for me, I think just finding one other person to do it with. Today I roped in 2 people to do my workout with me, which was great. Coach Dan also says, take advantage of group classes, group sessions. So whether it's the runs, like right now I know we're rocking Thursday morning at 6 a.m. and then 8 a.m. on Saturdays. It helps so much. This is why we also love to make people enroll in Mind Body, because it means it's another layer of accountability. Mm-hmm. But it really does help you not only get the workout in, but have just a higher level of enjoyment doing it.
Yeah, so my question for you is, what 2 sessions are you coming in for this week?
Really, honestly, if we're going to be real, during fall, winter, you should be doing 3.
That's right. 3 sessions.
They're 30 to 45 minutes. Come on, you got it.
You got this. Next up is about goals. So Coach Dan says, stay consistent with your training and keep your goals simple. So something like, I'm going to attend 3 strength classes and do 1 run this week, right? Mapping it out and also writing it out helps. Makes a big difference. Or telling someone so that they can hold you accountable. This is back to a recent episode, 10 Great Reasons to Have a Coach. We can hold you accountable with that. So when I just mentioned, what 2 or what 3 classes are you coming to this week? That is a question I'm asking all of my athletes now. I want them to be accountable for their own work. I want them to feel like they're in control of their schedule, so they get to tell me.
They can. It doesn't have to be the same 3 every week.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. So that goes back to keeping it fresh, doing some variety. If you always attend 1 class, try another one. But you want to make sure that you have those goals so that you can stay consistent.
Next up is Coach Jace, which I love this one, is plan your day. Mm-hmm. Pack your gym bag the day before or even at the beginning of the day for the whole day. And this helps so much because you can't use the excuse of like, there's nothing in my car, right? Or like, I don't have it in my bag. It's already there. So know that what you're going to do and then pack for it so that you're lowering your hurdles to not getting it done. I will say, you're going to need more gear.
Yeah.
Right? Especially if you're going to be doing it outside, you're going to need more gear, so just pack accordingly.
Yeah, and then my tip will go along with that. Unpack your bag when you get home. Because
Lord.
Just maybe from personal experience, I'll tell you that you don't want to leave that stuff in the bag until you've planned for the next morning, the night before. So,
laundry in the winter is also just so different.
Yeah.
I mean, I do probably 3 loads of athletic laundry in the winter. If not more. And then in the summer, it's like 1 to 2.
Yeah.
Everything's just a lot bigger.
Yep. Next up is to scale your nutrition. So watch your calories and track your nutrition if that's helpful, particularly during the holiday times. Sometimes we are moving a little bit less during the winter, so we shouldn't be feeling like we're still training for that marathon or Ironman.
Yeah, and this was a great one from Coach Jace, which is just, it's super mindful. And I have to remember this too. Like, if I am having a low activity day, I do not need a giant dinner, for instance. What am I refueling from? Like, it's just habit. And so it's like, do I actually need all of that? Probably not. Yeah. Focusing on, quality proteins, fruits and veggies, before other things is going to already kind of tee you up to have, if you're having less activity, to have a little bit less calories going in.
Coach J. Rowe has done some great episodes with us about fueling and nutrition, and I can't remember if we did an off-season one, but if we didn't, we will this season.
Next up is strength. You guys knew this was coming too. So we have a couple of these. Coach Berkeley said, up it. I mean, she's really great, right? She has a collegiate running background. So like upping your strength training. Now is your time to build that. So like we just said, 3 times a week, y'all should be lifting. There's no reason not to. And it's going to only help your next training cycle. And frankly, it's going to help you move better when you're 80 years old, right? I mean, that is the goal of this, is to be able to move better for longer. Big picture. Again, this is where the Edge Games come into play. Again, 12-14, if you want to check that out, it's edgeathlete.me/games. We can have members, non-members. We have 2 different levels. It's cool stuff. Coach Kat said the same thing. Not surprising that they're both hella into strength, right? She said, now is the time to build it, lift heavy, cross-train, try new things. All of these things also available at the Edge Games on December 14th.
Our next up is to keep it fun. Coach J. Rowe said, make it fun. Make time for activities like roller skating that you might not...
She did not say roller
She didn't
skating.
say roller. Okay, that was me. Make time for activities that you might not normally do and or try. So something that you can use the weather to your advantage, for example. So if it happens to snow in Chicago or wherever you're listening to this winter, just try something like snowshoeing or cross-country skiing or fat bikes or anything like that. Like just something to switch it up. And again, I think the variety can keep it fresh, but it can take pressure off of you and reduce your expectations about time goals and whatnot, which is really important during the off season as we're sort of navigating like past versions of ourselves and future versions of ourselves, and giving ourselves that break. So I'm +1 on this one. Keep it fun.
Next up, we've kind of hinted at this one already, but stay on your hydration game. So Coach Derek says, stay as dialed in with your hydration and nutrition for what you need for during when you train, the same as you are in the summer. We see this all the time when people head out on long runs in the winter, and part of it is really hard and stuff freezes and all of that goodness, but like you still have to be putting it in, because I promise you are still sweating and you are definitely still blowing through your carb and electrolyte stores. So plan. One way to do that if it's a longer session outside is to do loops, which I know that we'll do with our winter groups, especially when stuff is freezing.
And the truth is, things aren't really freezing for a little while still. So
you got this.
Most of the off season, you're not going to experience that issue. And when you do, it's just pretty badass to have a slushy.
Feels good.
Like my water froze. That's so cool that you were out there doing that. Off season training is so badass.
There's something so special about. And I had a runner when we first opened Edge, and I'd always trained year round, but she got me really into winter running, and she's very much like loved the winter. I do like winter. I don't like being cold, but I especially like running in winter because I'm nice and warm. But the colors are different. The textures are different, and there's just such a sense of ownership of the city. Yeah. And especially when you're like the only one out there, or the only ones, and our group is like, it's like we own the path, and it makes you feel so proud, and you don't need it to be perfect, but it's such a unique feeling. And I think that people don't know it until they just say it's too cold, I'm not gonna run outside. I'm like, I promise I'm gonna make you a winter runner. And she showed me the beauty of winter, so I want to share it with everyone else.
Oh, I'm telling you, the first day that it snows, I'm calling everybody who comes here, and we're all doing a group run because it is so magical.
I'll bring the sleds.
Yeah. Oh, and sleds, yes. All right, our final tip here is from Coach Worm talking about gear. So make sure that you have proper winter gear for your off season. So if you will be training outside, make sure that you have appropriate clothing, shoes, layers, and holidays are coming up. This is a great way to ask for some things that you might need or want. So if you have a little wish list, now's a good time to start telling people what you're going to be wanting.
It really does help, because then all of a sudden you have stuff that you can use.
And no excuses.
All right. Thanks for tuning in on how to slay your fall-winter season. We hope that these tips were helpful to you. If you have questions or if you want to tag us in any of your posts on how you are ruling this fall and winter, please do.
Or if you want to go roller skating with me, tag us.